Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, the Haggerty 10 Twitter handle. You know that by now. And I'm joined as ever today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. Morning, Sean.
How we doing, Tony? All right?
Not bad. It's a fabulous Friday where you are.
Of course it is, always is.
Always sunny in the Riviera, as you say. But sunny, clouding over in East Kilbride today, but there you go. Now, as always, ladies and gentlemen, draw your attention to the strap line at the bottom. You know the drill, you know the deal by now. We always have an offer for you. Subscribe to the Celtic Way, support top quality journalism. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. £1 a month for full access. And it's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. It's as simple as that. Just hit that button, isn't it, Sean?
Certainly is, aye. Quick comment from Pete McGee. Buy a new alarm, guys. 7 minutes past 10. Not acceptable.
Sorry, Pete. We do a wee bit of prep, Pete, before we come on here, you know. So sometimes our cup runneth over, and we like to get things ship shape and tip top before we come on and speak to everybody on the community that we've built here on the Celtic Way. Morning, folks. Morning, Sons of Scotland. Morning, David. Morning, Mark. How are we all doing? Now, Sean.
Yep.
There might be some transfer activity in the coming hours. Sayed Haksabanovic.
Yes.
Sayed Haksabanovic from Ruben Kazan, allegedly making his way to London for a medical to join Celtic in a cut price deal. He was originally €6.5 million. Rumours that Celtic can pick him up for €2.5 million or something like that. But if you listen to Ange and you listen intently, you will know this is the kind of player that he wants. Because he was asked last week about transfers and he said, well, there's no specific areas. We are looking for players who can play multiple positions. Now, Haksabanovic fits that bill, Sean. I think predominantly our left winger, but he can play in the right wing, he can play in attack, he can play behind a front three as an attacking midfielder. So I think versatile is the buzzword here, and that fits Ange's criteria, doesn't it?
Aye, I think so. It was obviously someone that had been kind of linked or offered to them, or certainly in reports with them earlier on in the season. And for whatever reason, I think it was really the fee that was understood to be the case for it to not really be taken forward. That's changed because by all accounts, it's going to be a knockdown fee. It's another one of those transfer window buzzwords, Tony. So once the cost is kind of in Celtic's favour, why not go for it? That kind of thing. If it was someone that otherwise interested, Ange Postecoglou in the scouting department. But no, you're right to say predominantly has played left wing across his spell in Russia, Sweden. He was at West Ham before as well.
Yes.
But basically, I mean, when you break down his minutes and stuff, he really does play across the front and even centre midfield and attack midfield at certain points. Left wing might be, if you're going to nail him down, this is his position, put him down as that, then yes, but he can play anywhere else, basically. So I'd be interested to see the way that he's used by Ange. I'm particularly intrigued to see if he uses him centrally, not necessarily as a striker, but one of the midfield positions or whatever. But I don't know. I think it looks as if it's a good signing. There was some consternation, as there often is, Tony, on social media about maybe the rationale for signing another player that plays in any of those or all of those positions because of the players that are already there, and I worry that maybe it means there'll be bids coming in for other players. I mean, it could mean that because I think a lot of the Celtic players, the more that they play well, will be interesting teams anyway. But more than anything else, I do think it comes back to that. Well, it was someone that we would have considered, but not at the price. And when the price changes, we'll consider him again, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't get too worried about that. I think it's adding to the options. I think you're talking maybe a Yeti and other people like that, Mikey Johnston going on loan rather than any of the big guns, so to speak. But you never know, I suppose. That's the caveat to that. But no, I wouldn't be too downhearted about it. And you've got to remember as well, the kind of alternative people are saying is they wanted a defensive midfielder, a number 6, which we spoke about before as well. And I'm not going to say it again about the technical quality and stuff. I'm not going to say it because you all know my thoughts on it if we sign a number 6, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to either.
Yes, exactly.
And again, you don't turn down another good player if it's in your ballpark.
No, of course, indeed. He's led a nomadic existence, Sean, in terms of clubs for someone who's only 23, but maybe just needs a home, doesn't he? Somewhere where someone puts faith in him and he can play regular football once he's up to speed.
Yeah, and I think Kookaburra makes a good point, which is kind of what I touched on there about Mikey Johnston. I wouldn't say it spelled the end for him. He's got a contract till 2025. I'd suspect it would be a loan spell, but in terms of this season, at least the first half of this season, I would think it might. Yeah, what do you think, Tony?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, my thoughts on Mikey Johnston have been made perfectly clear. I think he would benefit from going out on loan and seeing if he can get regular game time elsewhere. And this signing or imminent signing would suggest to you that he's maybe not part of Andy's plans this season. So it'd be best for both parties for him to go elsewhere and get some first team football. Also, as well, I believe that Andy is still building. They're not in the dismantling market. Lots of people are worried about, Jota, and I've written an article myself saying Jota will go eventually and he'll break the transfer record, but I wasn't meaning imminently, and I don't think Ange would the club would let him leave imminently unless it was just a ridiculous offer that they couldn't turn down.
I agree with you. I think that's that term ridiculous offer. That's the caveat for me all the time. If it is silly money, then fair enough. As a club, you kind of take the executive decision, but otherwise, you don't really touch it.
No, you're not. And you were talking about the consternation, and that was a lot of the talk of the consternation on Twitter last night. That this guy coming in, is that meaning that they're thinking of Jota, or clubs are already inquiring about Jota and maybe talking to them
You've
about
got Jota, Abada. See, honestly, any of the front five, but it's only natural. Look, it's not a bad thing that someone would think that, because it's only natural, especially as a fan, to think, well, what does that mean for who's already here if someone else is coming in that plays that position and all that? But I wouldn't get too disheartened about it. Not in this window, and not, as we say in Leicester's, a ridiculous offer.
And to be fair, the manager actually likes the fact that these players are, they play well, and there's speculation about them. That's all points to the fact that Celtic and Ange are doing something right. So he doesn't mind that.
Of course, aye. It's the same with international call-ups, Tony. Remember he mentioned that about, he's over the moon for them getting the call-up. Obviously, doesn't want them to get injured when they're out there and stuff like that. But if they're getting called up when they previously weren't, for instance, Cameron and Carter Vickers, then it's a boon for the player. It's a boon for Postecoglou as a manager. It's a boon for the club, because you've got another international player on the books, and a lot of Celtic players are international players. It's just part and parcel with it. Likewise, for a team like Celtic, especially the way that they play football under Postecoglou, it is going to attract people to look at them, because the players do so well, some of them. I think you take it as a compliment.
But as we bang about on here, Sean, the shrewdest thing Celtic have done with all of these guys is nail them down.
As I say, security is underrated, Tony.
So Celtic have, they've got all the cards here, haven't they? They've got all the aces when it comes to buying and selling of these players. So they've done the homework and they've been shrewd that way.
I think that's particularly impressive from the club the last maybe couple of transfer windows, that they have kind of sought to get the longer term deals done, and especially for the likes of, as I said the other day, that the Jota deal's looking better as the week goes by, because he's the longest tenured player.
Yes,
and you're just going, right, that's superb business at that point. Not only have you got him for a fee that is going to look cheap, or does look cheap, and Benfica probably are cursing it, but you've also got him tied down for so long that anybody that's in any way sniffing about him is going to need to do what you say and break records.
And open the wallet. Yes, indeed. Now, Haksabanovic as well, his versatility, Sean. And you touched upon there that you wonder where Ange Postecoglou would fit him in and where he will play him, and people saying, who will drop out. But I think that versatility is key, especially when you're going into the Champions League. You have a player who can play multiple positions, and I think that's what the manager's thinking as well, isn't he? Rather than sign one player for a specific position, you sign a cut price player who can play. So you spend €2.5 million on Haksabanovic, then that's like getting.
Now, I don't want to pigeonhole him as he's only going to be a rotation option, a versatile, a Mr. Utility, because it's almost unfair as well, that kind of thing. But that's a great point, because when you look at the bench these days, and you even look at the bench at the tail end of last season, sometimes who got on the bench was dictated by the fact that they could cover more than one position as well.
Correct.
And I think that will make the bench even more competitive. And I'm not saying that he'll always be on the bench, just that it will make even the competition to get on the bench for games will be competitive at that point. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
It's an excellent thing, and as you say,
sorry, I put this comment up, by the way, Tony. Forgot to ask you the question: how far down the pecking order will James Forrest be, Gary McDowell asked?
Well, that's an intriguing one, isn't it? We spoke that the thing with James Forrest is every time you write James Forrest off, he comes back and plays and scores a big goal. He scored a big goal against St Johnstone in the League Cup semi-final. He scored a big goal at Livingston when Celtic traditionally struggled on that plastic pitch, but had a cracking game and scored a cracking goal there when they put that kind of, we say hoodoo, but that kind of jinx at Livingston to bed.
Yeah.
So he pops up every now and again and surprises you, James Forrest. So I'm of the opinion that he can still contribute. He'll not contribute as much, but I think he's still a player that can be relied upon to come off the bench and have an impact and do things that we've just said, score vital goals when needed.
Yeah, I think so. I think Gary McDowell's right to ask it. I think it arguably does push him a wee bit further down the pecking order, but it depends where you thought it was in the pecking order to begin with as well. Because I said last season, I feel if you're going to ask him to be first choice and play 3 times a week, you're asking for trouble at that point.
Yeah.
But get into the new season when he signed what is widely understood to be reduced terms, but for a longer deal. And as David Ferguson actually says here, Forrest knows where he stands as long as Ange says he's in his plans in any way, basically, then he's going to be happy. He's a Celtic man through and through. That's kind of the way I stand. That's where I stand on it, Tony, that he knows he's not going to be playing that often. But in a way, it's almost beneficial for him because he's missed so much football the last couple of years that not expected to be starting and not expected to be playing every week might actually be beneficial for him to make sure he can keep himself ready to make an impact every now and again. If the expectation isn't there for him to do it every week, it might settle into a wee role there. The others might say that that's not good enough and that maybe shouldn't be in the squad at all then. But you do still need players like that.
Of course you do. I think so too. I think anybody who can make a goal-scoring contribution, you need them. So.
Yeah, I mean, if he pops up with even the same contributions as last season, but maybe comes on and plays maybe better in a couple of sub-appearances, but for instance, scores a couple of pivotal goals, Livingston away, St Johnstone in the Cup, that kind of thing, then I'll count it as a very good deal from the club and from his point of view to have him just about, because he's also an experienced player, a popular guy and all that. And I think that does count for something too. And he's homegrown for the Champions League.
Indeed, Sean. We are always thinking, see, David Ferguson were prepping. You know that. Sean's man.
David Gillespie's got it down to a T though. We were practicing the pronunciation. There was a conversation had on WhatsApp this morning. Just to double check.
Haksabanovic. That right, Sean?
Too good at this, aye.
Sead Haksabanovic. You know, saying it live, you know you're going to make a mess of it at some time and call him Haksabanovic or something. The Marx Brothers character, Dr. Haksabanovic. Groucho Marx. There's one for the older generation there.
Kevin Ferrier saying, "Sorry guys, I'm late. Just don't tell Pete McGee, Kevin." That's all I'll say.
We were late too, Kevin. So
I saw Rob was very quick to click there. They were late as well.
Now, Sean, Celtic bandwagon rolls on to Sunday, Celtic Park. Celtic take on Hearts. And it's a big game for the reasons we pointed out yesterday. Celtic can go 36 games in the league unbeaten under Ange, and that would be the second time he's achieved it, made history in Australian sport with Brisbane Roar, the only team in Australian sporting history to embark on a 36-game unbeaten run in any sport, which is worthy of applause in itself. But you were saying yesterday might not be such a great achievement at Celtic. The achievement is that he's did it twice, or he would do it twice if Celtic avoid defeat on Sunday. And I know you don't think they'll avoid defeat on Sunday because you're going for the gloves, aren't you, in terms of the score prediction?
Yeah, we'll leave that on we'll leave that for at the end. But I've went full. Right, anyway, as you say, looking to make it 36 league games unbeaten with Celtic, as he did with Brisbane Roar. if you tuned in yesterday at the usual time, you'll have seen it was a special episode which we'll be doing intermittently. The Celtic Way sit down. It'll be the two of us or one of us will be a special guest on a topic rather than just a guest on the briefing. We'll still be doing the briefing every day. It was just to introduce it to you at the usual time when you expect. But yesterday we had Stephen McGarry, who played against Ange Postecoglou's team. I've had a year to get that pronunciation, Tony. When he was in Australia, he was with Perth Glory when Ange was with Brisbane Roar, and he gave us a wee bit of an insight. But he did say, Tony, that as far as he knows, Ange, it will be business as usual. He won't care about the 36 game thing with Celtic, which I think is probably bang on. But I still think it's worth highlighting because from Celtic's point of view, it's nothing. It's almost irrelevant. It's not a historic thing. But I just think worth highlighting from an Ange Postecoglou point of view that will be the second time. So we not acknowledge that, and it's a difficult opponent, Tony. I think on the face of it.
And they got a half decent result last night in Zurich.
Mm.
You know, only going down 2-1, so that they've had a good start to the season. And Robbie Nielsen's another manager that I rate highly. Mm-hmm. And you know they'll present, as Ange always says, they present the next challenge.
Yep.
And whilst he might not lay great stock on the 36 game unbeaten run, he'll still want to do it, Sean.
He'll still want to make it 36. He'll still want to make it 37 and 38 and 39.
Yeah,
correct. But no, I think for Hearts, I've kind of had a wee look at them as I always do. They still play a 3 or a 5 at the back. Exception being that Dundee United game where they beat them 4-1. They played 4 at the back. But so I'd expect it will be 3 or 5, whatever you want to put it. Probably 5 at Parkhead, and therefore the likes of Jota, Maeda, whoever plays out wide for Celtic's space exploitation will be key. Getting Kyogo some chances in the middle as well. And in terms of results, they've had a goodish start to the league season. The ish being the kind of key bit there for me. I think they beat Ross County, but by all accounts from up north, the Staggies felt quite hard done by to come away from that with nothing. Then it was obviously the 1-1 draw against Hibs, which was a last minute equaliser from Hibs. Now they dismantled Dundee United. Totally dismantled them, and then, as you say, it was a decent result in Europe. I know they get beat, but away from home, all that kind of stuff. It was a decent result. I still think that won't do Celtic's chances any harm. That they were playing Thursday, so early in the season, all that kind of stuff. Celtic with a full week. Now performances, I would think I've watched their highlights and stuff in prep, and the eye test says they're playing quite well. And there's a couple of comments saying they will maybe try and play a bit. Now, it's easy saying that, but as David Ferguson is saying here, sometimes you don't have a choice when you're playing Celtic. Celtic have so much of the ball press so high, you don't have a choice sometimes. And I tend to agree with David. I think that is that's what will happen. So that 3 will become a 5 more often than not for Hearts.
But they still have a threat in Barry Mackay and Lawrence Shankland up front.
Of course they do. Yeah.
So you need to be wary of that, Sean, you know.
They do. Lawrence Shankland's finishing again. So that is always a threat. I always think Liam Boyce is a cracking player.
Yeah.
He's been asked to kind of sit a wee bit deeper. He's not necessarily playing up front. He's kind of sitting a wee bit deeper, which he's always been capable of doing as well. He's getting assist on him. Barry Mackay has been playing really well by all accounts as well. So no, they are a threat. And I mean, Josh Ginnelly, I know there was rumours and reports that he might be leaving, but he's still there, I think. And he does worry Celtic when he plays them, I always think. So on the counter, Hearts will be a danger, but I tend to agree with David that in terms of Hearts coming out and playing, it's easy to say that that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
But when it actually comes to the reality of Celtic having the ball at Parkhead, it's quite difficult. And anyway, when I was looking at Hearts, as I'm saying, the eye test says they're playing quite well, but when you look at the kind of, I know to get the data out for a minute, but I'll not go too heavy with it. It's like the start of the season, and I know it's only the first 3 games, first 4 games, whatever, but Hearts are allowing their opponents to create more than what they themselves are creating. And remember, that was including a 4-1 win.
Yeah.
And it's still the case. So basically, I don't see any reason to suggest, and this will probably play into my score prediction later, I don't see any reason to suggest that they're playing well enough defensively in that sense to keep Celtic at bay if it's the Celtic, the kind of cutthroat Celtic that turned up at the park. I just, that's the way I'm kind of looking at it.
I think it will be the cutthroat Celtic that turns up, Sean, because the manager demands it, that they put on a show for the fans who pack out the stadium. And Sunday night, I fully expect to see Celtic go for it again. And like you, I think it could be it depends. Personnel as well, playing 3 at the back is working well for us. CCV Heart and gents. Now, who comes in, Sean? Does Starfelt come back in, or we'll be doing a predicted lineup, won't we, for tomorrow or today at some point?
Aye, sorry, I'm just putting a couple of users in block mode there with a couple of nonsense comments. But aye, to be honest, Tony, this whole week between games thing, it's not good. I don't like it. It means I don't see much real need for rotation in terms of, because the games aren't coming thick and fast yet. You could make the argument game time for those not playing much competitively is important, but then he had a bounce game and different things. So I still don't see many changes. That said, I'll stick my neck out for 2, Tony. I'll say I think it's unlikely to be the main concern, first and foremost, that getting guys game time that haven't been playing competitively. I think it's unlikely that's the main concern against a team like Hearts. So to me, centre back in one of the centre mid positions maybe comes into it. Cameron Carter-Vickers will start. We know that. He'll start virtually every game unless he gets injured, or it's maybe a League Cup game or something. So it's who partners him. Postecoglou said he thought Maurice Jens was okay after coming off against Kelly. I'm sure there'll be an update at the presser, but in any case, I think I'm going to double down on last week, Tony, and say that I think maybe Starfelt returns and gets his first start. Almost kind of mirrors, see, the start to last season where injuries, signings, red cards, rotation, stuff like that meant that he changed his centre backs about a fair bit in the opening few weeks. So I don't know. There's very much not that much rationale in it, but I'm still going to double down on Starfelt to come back in.
Okay.
Would you think? No,
I admire that rationale, and I can see where you're going with that, and it really is. I think it's a toss of a coin between. Well, we'll find out today. If Gents is fit, then he's going to pick one of Starfelt or Gents, isn't he? So it's it really is a coin toss on that one. Midfield, if Hatate's fit, which I think he alluded to, didn't he? I can see him coming back in.
That's my other shout. Yeah, I think you over Turnbull, I presume.
Yeah, and up front, I think it'll be as you were. I don't think you'll, despite your man's cameo and wonderful goal last week, and despite the fact that I've championed him every week to start. This is a week when I don't champion him to start, and you know what's going to happen, don't you?
No, I think that's a fair shout that Hatate will come in for Turnbull. And I do agree. I expect in goal, obviously, fullbacks and up front to stay the same. Worth pointing out for anybody that's been on social media that for the avoidance of doubt, none of what we've just said means sell George or Giacomakis. But I think that's a fair shout, Tony.
Yes, I think if you read the digest that we put out, the Diary Digest, myself and Sean were firmly in the we do not sell. Celtic do not sell Georgios Giacomakis at this juncture and at any cost at this particular time. So I was, and I agree with Kaiser there, healthy competition for every position. That's exactly what the manager wants. He's stated that, and he likes to signpost things, doesn't he, and tell you intentions when he's asked a question that flicks his switch and floats his boat. So I really can't see much change apart from Hatate for Turnbull if he's ready. Yeah, I think Kyogo scored the first goal last 2 games, so why change it? Yep, Scott, I just said that it'll probably the front three will change. I said despite Giacomakis' wonderful goal and my personal clamour to get him in the last couple of weeks, but I think having seen what the manager has done with his team selection, then I think it'll be a case of as is, because it ain't broke, Sean, is it?
No, it's not. William Lamont mentioning Jens was clearly fine after the Kelly game because he was dancing about. So he starts. He very well might. Yeah, I think I wouldn't complain. I think he did well in his 55 minutes. I think Starfelt did well in his 35 as well. Bit rusty, but that almost means maybe might get another game. I don't know. We'll see.
I think that's the wonderful thing, Sean, though, that these are cracking dilemmas for the manager to have.
Yeah.
And I think everybody trusts whatever team the manager put out in the park to get a result. So I would keep Turnbull. I want to get him to his best, says David Bradley. Again, David, it's all about opinions, isn't it? So, but I know when Ange was talking about Hatate and he said he wasn't quite ready for last week, he did mention that possibly the Hearts game would be more beneficial for him and give him just that time to come back. So I was just kind of thinking ahead, like Ange, and saying, well, maybe had his eye in that, saying that's the game that he would bring him back into the fold.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking as well. That he was technically ready for the Kelly game, but he didn't want to risk it. He wanted to push him on another week. So Gary McDowell's right to say no need to rush Hatate back, which is true. But I think if he was rushing him back, he would have started against Kelly, that kind of thing. There's a couple of comments here. Jason Lee saying, want Celtic to keep scoring off set pieces. Have a feeling we're going to need to do that in the CL. And that is married with Gary McDowell's comment from earlier on. Great article on corners now. He's referring to Alan Morrison's latest offering on the site, Tony, which I'll put in the comments, which is a really interesting offering because obviously Celtic have scored 4 goals from corners in the opening 3 games.
Yeah.
So Alan's kind of dug into that, compared it to the last 4 or 5 seasons, and just kind of hypothesised why it might be the case that so far they've been on a hot streak from corners and stuff. And I think it's definitely worth a read. So I'll put the link in the comments for you.
Also highlights how crucial set pieces can be in the winning of games and scoring of goals. So it's really
through a run near the tail end of last season, Tony, where there was like 4 or 5 games in a row where a set piece of some description led to a goal. I had written, I think it was March, about like it was an Achilles heel defensively for a while, and it needed to be turned into a marginal gain, as in not conceding quite as much from set pieces, but also maybe scoring more. I felt that they're kind of, and I still kind of feel like this in a way, that there's not much in terms of routine. They might do a short corner now and again, but whether you think that counts as a routine or not, I'm still on the fence about whether I would call that a routine. Just taking a short corner, I mean, like set piece routines in terms of where you move in the box and stuff, but there is evidence that's changing. But last season, I thought I kind of said it was profiting from the chaos that a set piece can cause. And I don't mean just throwing it into the mixer, but I mean just in general, it was a lot of second phases, and it has been so far this time as well, where it's not necessarily just cross, header in like it was for Stephen Welsh's goal. Maybe it was more like Starfelt's, where it was cross, and then there was an attempt, but it kind of came back to someone and they were switched on and that kind of thing. So they all count. It ultimately doesn't matter if it's a routine or not. If that's working, then it's working.
So speaking of the all count, Sean, scoreline prediction then. And I think I know where you're going to go with this, but go on.
I'll even explain it because I kind of hinted to you. It's very tenuous. It's very dubious logic, to be honest with you, Tony. But given what I said there about the kind of created chances in the XG and stuff like that, I suppose I can make an actual case for it. But really, I'm going to go 4-0 Celtic. And the reason I'm going 4-0 Celtic is not the underlying data. It's not even the fact that Celtic have clicked into gear attacking wise. It's because I like a quirk of fate, and we keep going on. I've been neck deep in this 36 match unbeaten run of Brisbane Roars the last couple of days to prep for that Stephen McGarry interview, and I just love a quirk of fate. So they started their 36 game unbeaten run with a 1-1 home draw. Celtic started this run with a 1-1 home draw. Brisbane ended theirs, the 36th game, was a 4-0 win at home against a team that wears purple. So, tenuous, maybe, but I'm backing it anyway.
Yeah, you're having that, aren't you, Sean? 4-0, Sean's prediction. And we're making the point that Brisbane Roar highest win was 7-0, wasn't it?
7-1, Celtic.
7-1, yeah.
Listen, Tony, there's several similarities. I might actually put an article out on it if they win on Sunday, because it's there's lovely wee quirks of fate in there with the two Postecoglou teams.
Well, because I don't want to go the same scoreline as yourself,
I've convinced you, innit?
You have convinced you. Correct, Rindo. I like quirks of fate as well. I'll go 5-0, Sean. There you go.
All right, okay.
Same as last week. Same old. But I can't see anything other than a comprehensive Celtic victory and another commanding performance, because I thought they raised their game really well last week on that surface, and they were really, really slick, and I just think they're finding their feet and rhythm this season, and it started very early, and obviously that's ideal preparation for when they do play against better and tougher opposition.
Yep. I think there's every reason to be confident. I know Hearts are the kind of third force and all that, but as I say, they can be got at. It's at Parkhead. It's Celtic, the way that they're playing against Kilmarnock, and even the way that they were finishing stuff against Ross County and stuff. I feel positive. I think there's every reason to think that there'll be a couple of goals in it.
And on that note, hope everybody has a fabulous Friday. Looks forward to Sunday, and Celtic are celebrating another 3 points and a win. See if Sean's prediction or my prediction comes true. The 4-0 would be.
Well, one of them does, Tony.
Yes, indeed. But guys, thanks as ever for your contributions. Again, just draw your attention to the bottom of your screen. Subscribe to the Celtic Way. It's £1 a month for full access. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and join us. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Sean, thanks for your contribution. First class as always. Thanks for your contribution, guys. Have a cracking weekend. All the best.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Trips.